It is so easy to get caught up in the need for perfectionism. It's so easy to get caught up in the need to get it exactly right before you ship it. And in business, this is such a trap. And I'd like to come on here and say I'm a reformed perfectionist, but I am not there yet. I am definitely a reforming one. And I want to talk a little bit today about a recent experience I've had that shows me that I am still reforming and I'm still working on this journey, and how you can give yourself grace and still be consistent in your business. Hey, I'm Sarah Greener. Welcome to the Moxie Movement. I'm so excited that you're here. I cannot wait to dive into this episode with you, all about how requiring yourself to be perfect, requiring your business to be perfect is holding you back. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had the exciting, slightly challenging experience of trying to get back to the UK in a short time frame. Normally, I do one of these podcasts every week, and you will have noticed there's been a little gap between the last one and this one. Why is that? That is because we decided to renovate our house and then got a last minute call to come back to the UK, and so we did that all at the same time. And in trying to do all of that and juggle everything that comes with that as a mum and a wife, and also trying to renovate the house ready to Airbnb it and do end of year school things and do Christmas, something had to give. And I was supposed to spend a day filming podcasts so that I could release them all for you. But when you're renovating a house, the noise factor is high, which is not super suitable for recording a podcast. It was one of the things that I had to let slide at the end of last year. And immediately for me, a whole welling of guilt and shame comes up, telling me that I'm not good enough, that I'm not doing enough, that I'm not working hard enough. And a few years ago, I would have killed myself, stayed up until 2-3 o'clock in the morning when it was quiet in the house to get this podcast episode to you, and the following ones. I think we've skipped 3 weeks. I would have stayed up until all hours of the morning trying to get it done for you because I was still so caught up in being perfect. And now I'm a little older and a little wiser and I've got a little more experience. I know that taking a 3-week break isn't going to make or break this. Is it better if it's more consistent? Is it better if it comes out every week since I launched the podcast? Absolutely. All the experts will tell you that consistency is where the game is won. And I'm also not going to kill myself anymore to do that. I'm not going to lose sleep. I'm not going to miss meals. I'm not going to miss family time in order to deliver something that nobody's going to die over if I don't do it. So my apologies that this one's a wee bit late, but we've had a lot going on in our lives. And here's the reason that I wanted to talk about this. This is a really recent experience for me. And I don't know about you, but it shows up all the time in my business. Places where I really want to get things exactly right before I ship them. I really want to do things in a perfect way before I ship them. And so often it just keeps me stuck. And I imagine if that's the case for me, it's probably the case for you too. Where this perfectionism, where this need to be perfect shows up, where it comes from is a myriad of different places. As women in business, we can all probably write a list, and it's probably a pretty familiar list of where it comes from. But what I want to talk about is, where does it show up? And I want to talk about how can we start to mitigate that, and how can we start to make sure that we are taking action and creating progress over working towards perfection. Because progress over perfection wins every time. The idea here is to fail forward and to fail fast. The idea in business is to iterate. When you're standing still, you can't get anywhere. And that's what perfectionism does to us. When perfectionism shows up, it stops us from sending things out into the world. It stops us from picking up the phone and making the phone call. It stops us from taking any form of action, and it keeps us stuck. So I want to dive into what that looks like, and then I want to talk about what are some of the really simple things that we look at doing. And I also want to talk about how we give ourselves grace, because you don't always have to be right. You don't always have to be perfect. It doesn't always have to be done exactly the right way. If I showed you the backdrop here of how I'm shooting this podcast for you today, you would laugh. It is far from perfect, but it's getting done, and it's about the progress and not the perfection. And so this podcast in and of itself is an example of progress over perfection. what I see often with perfectionism is it shows up where we're going to put something out in the world where the output will be judged and we are attaching our identity to it. So if I put this podcast out into the world and you don't like it, it makes me not enough, not good enough, not a great business owner, not a great podcast host, whatever the thing might be. My identity has got attached to the thing that I'm delivering into the world. And so I want it to be perfect. And it's just an absolutely unobtainable standard that we set for ourselves. So there is no perfect podcast. There's no perfect podcast episode. There is no perfect podcast studio. There are some better ones than the one I'm sitting in today. And there are probably some worse ones than the one I'm sitting in today. The reality is that when we attach our identity to an outcome, we start to get stuck. And so perfectionism shows up when you're going to put something out into the world and it's going to get judged. Here's the thing. If tomorrow I look back at this episode and I think, oh, it's exactly as it should be, it's exactly the right way it should be, I couldn't have made it any better if I did it again today, then I spent too long on it. I spent too long thinking on it, and the wisdom and the nuance and the learnings I gained from today have not been able to make it any better tomorrow, then I spent too long on it. And so when I start to look at things through that frame, anything that I'm shipping, whether this be a new product, a new service, piece of content that you're putting out into the world, maybe it's some packaging, I look at it and go, tomorrow me will know more, will have better understanding of things, will be able to be more critical, provide more critique that would allow me today, Sarah, to be better. And so I can never meet that standard because they know more, they are better, they have expanded, they have grown. That's the whole evolution of being human, is to grow and to become more. And so I now know that if tomorrow or in a month's time, if I couldn't improve on this podcast, then I spent too long doing it. And I remember someone talking to me about this a long, long time ago when we first started to do email marketing, and I used to agonize over my emails and make sure the spelling was perfect and the grammar and the structure and the way it looked and the way it felt and the way it sounded were perfect. And the problem with that was nothing ever got sent. And so email marketing is not much use of sitting on my computer and not in your emails. Whereas now I worry less about all of the detail and more about some key components and getting it done quickly. And when I was working with these experts, they were based out in Arizona in the States, and they said, you can take no longer than 6 minutes to write an email, which at the time I was horrified by, because at the time it was taking about an hour to write an email. So no more than 6 minutes. So the first thing to get yourself unstuck is set yourself some deadlines, set yourself some targets, set yourself some timelines, and stick to them. For example, today with this podcast, I've got an hour. I'm going to sit here, I'm going to record as many sessions as I can, and then later on we'll edit them, we'll tidy them up, we'll put them out into the world. But I've set a target of getting 5 podcast episodes done in this hour, with a view that if I got 4 done, that would be great, close enough, good enough. And it would mean that there was some content out there in the world for you. Instead of waiting for it to be perfect, then I would not ship anything. I'd wait until I was in a location where I could have a proper podcast studio, where I could have my mic, where I could have my lights. I don't have any of that stuff with me. We are totally doing this on the fly while we're traveling. And we're going to do more of that in 2024. So I should get used to it. You're going to start getting stuck with things being perfect when you're shipping it out into the world, and other people are going to see it, and other people are, in your mind, going to judge it, be critical of it. And so you might want to just keep working on it and working on it and working on it. Here's the thing. We can always come back and fix it later. Let's get it live, get it done, get it out into the world. The solution to this one, set yourself a timeline, set yourself a time frame, and get it done. Just like the 6-minute emails, you can do that with any piece of work that you're working on and just get it shipped. You think about when you've got a deadline, when you're going on holiday, when you're going away, you can't stay where you're at and you have to get something done. This is another example of that. Like the amount of work you can get done before a holiday, it's the same. Giving yourself a time frame, you can get it to 80% of the way there and move forward into the world. One of the other times I see that perfectionism shows up for women in business is where it's going to, whatever you're going to do or say or experience or create is going to impact someone else. I find this often shows up when it's part of your product experience, it's part of your service onboarding, it's part of what you're delivering for someone else and the impact that it's going to make on your world. For example, if you were going to come and be a client with me in the MBA, I get stuck in a perfectionism loop when it comes to how am I onboarding you as a client. I could spend the next 12 months just going round and round and perfecting how that works, making sure that every little bit of that system is working in a really pristine way. But in doing that and getting stuck in this loop of perfectionism, because it impacts my clients as they come on board, means that it never gets done. And for a long time, I really struggled with this. So I'd be like, it's not right, it's not perfect, it can't go out into the world, the email's not working, I haven't checked it, the links aren't working. Fundamentally though, whenever I put something out, no matter how long I spend on it, there will always be a mistake or error or something wrong with it that's not exactly as it should be. Someone will always find a hole. They'll find an email that doesn't work, a video link that's broken. They will find a time or date that's incorrect in one of our tourism business emails. They'll find an old image of a past crew member that's no longer with us. There will always be something that's not quite right. And so what I've learned is that instead of encouraging my clients to get these systems and processes perfect, instead of ensuring that when that perfectionism shows up, because it's going to impact other human beings, we want to look at it. How do we make sure that we've got a really good system for coming back around to these things? For me, we use a tool called the Success Map. We get our systems built live. We start in a way where we look at our systems that run our business in 3 frames. What costs us the most time, what costs us the most money, and what costs us the most brain space. And those are the systems we work on best. And we've finished and we've got all of these systems live and working just to a base level. This is not perfection. This is just, is it working? Will it fundamentally do the simplest version of what you need it to do? Because simple writes the permission slip for everything else. And sometimes simple is just enough. We want to do that first. And then we want to have a system, a process of coming back around and reviewing those systems. For me, with my onboarding, which I consider a key power system in my business, I want to create it, and then I want to know that every 12 months or every 6 months, I'm coming back around to review that system and make the adjustments and make the changes. And then the last place that I see perfectionism show up for women in business is when we're a bit scared. Because it's really easy to hide behind our morals and ethics. It's really easy to say, I'm not putting this out into the world because it's not right yet. When actually what we're really saying is, I'm not putting this out into the world yet. I'm not sharing this with other people because I'm scared, because I'm a bit fearful. And often I find that for you and me, this isn't about it won't be good enough. But sometimes it's about being scared of just how great it could be. What if I put it out there and it's awesome? And people judge me for that too. And so sometimes fear is harder to communicate than saying you want something to be right, than you want something to be perfect. And we hide behind the moral excuse of it's not right yet, it's not perfect yet, when really we're just a little bit scared. And I think it's really important that in those moments we give ourselves grace. It's totally okay to feel scared. It's totally okay to feel fear. And everything awesome is on the other side of something you were scared of. You look back on every amazing thing that's come into your life, and there was always some nerves, some anxiousness, some fear, some anticipation that came before the great thing. And so with this one, we're going to give ourselves some grace, and then we're going to do the thing anyway. We're going to show up and just do it, because the emotional wall that we create between thinking about doing the thing and doing the thing is far more painful than just doing the thing. And the biggest cure for fear is always action, some form of action. The moment you take action, fear disappears. I want to say, like me, that if you're a reforming perfectionist, that's totally okay. And it's totally okay to give yourself some grace and let some things slip every now and then. And I really want you to think about, how can I embrace progress over perfection? Because we cannot create the lives that we want. We cannot create the freedom that we want. We cannot build the legacy that we want for our families if we don't just progress. And if you're waiting for the time to be perfect, if you're waiting for the product to be perfect or the service to be perfect, you will never go. The perfect conditions do not exist. It's a fallacy that keeps us safe and cozy in our current situation, doesn't allow us to expand and grow. And so, let go of perfect. Embrace the progress, 1% better, because it doesn't matter what you do, someone out there is going to find value in it. You're going to impact somebody's life in a wonderful way by just making progress. And that might just be yours. Go. Take the action, feel the fear, do it anyway. Give yourself some grace if it's not quite up to your normal high expectations. Get it done, put it out there into the world, because I know someone will thank you. And that person might just be you. Let's go. Be the glorious exceptions and create that Moxie business so that you can build a legacy for your family.